refuse to forget the past, when old empires whisper to modern powers, welcome to Greater Nations Plans, a journey into the territorial dreams and ambitions of today's global powers. China believes history never ended, it just paused, from claiming Taiwan as a breakaway province, to controlling Tibet and claiming Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin from India. China's maps are not just geography, they're political manifestos. The United States once bought Alaska. In 2019, it wanted Greenland, and behind smiles with Canada lies a quiet desire, Arctic dominance. As the ice melts, so do the boundaries of old ambitions. Russia's invasion of Ukraine isn't just war, it's the revival of a broken empire. For Putin, history is not a memory, it's a map. Some believe in a greater Israel stretching from the Nile to the Euphrates, while not official policy. Such dreams stoke fires in an already explosive region. In speeches and strategy, President Erdoğan invokes the Ottoman past, from Syria to Libya to Azerbaijan. Turkey's actions hint at something deeper, a vision of leading the Islamic world once again. Iran's reach now stretches from Tehran to Beirut, not through tanks but through proxy influence. The goal? A Shia power corridor that reshapes West Asia. The Durand Line separates two nations, but Pashtun tribes never accepted it. Pakistan and Afghanistan's border remains a simmering fault line. At the bottom of the world, a quiet competition brews. Chile and Argentina both claim parts of Antarctica because when resources become rare, even the ice has value. India isn't chasing lost lands, it's defending what it believes is rightfully its own, from Siachen Glacier to Aksai Chin and Pak. Its fight is not for expansion, but for restoration. Empires fall, but memories linger. Nations rise, but borders never rest. As the world moves forward, old dreams follow close behind. This is the age of Greater Nations Plans, where history isn't in the past, it's in the future map. China believes history never ended, it just paused, from claiming Taiwan as a breakaway province, to tightening its grip on Tibet, to staking claim over Indian territories like Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin. China's maps are more than just borders, they are blueprints of ambition. Before we dive deeper, let's understand the foundation. The People's Republic of China, led by the Communist Party since 1949, governs the mainland. But when you hear the term Greater China, it often includes mainland China, Hong Kong and Macau, Taiwan, and disputed regions like Tibet, Aksai Chin, and Arunachal Pradesh. In imperial times, China was vast, yet vulnerable. The Qing dynasty ruled over Tibet and parts of what is now Xinjiang, but colonial interference, internal strife, and warlords fragmented the empire. After the 1911 revolution, the Republic of China took over but lost control of many regions during the Civil War. When the Communists came to power in 1949, their mission was not just survival, it was reunification and restoration. Tibet was invaded in 1950 and annexed by 1951. Aksai Chin was occupied in the 1950s and triggered the 1962 India-China War. Taiwan remained under the Republic of China, backed by the US. Today, China's ambitions are no longer quiet. Taiwan faces near constant military pressure. Chinese jets frequently cross into its air defense zone. Tibet is tightly controlled, with surveillance and cultural suppression. In the Himalayas, Chinese troops have clashed with Indian soldiers in deadly standoffs. Arunachal Pradesh, an Indian state, is shown in Chinese maps as South Tibet. New maps and documents released by Beijing openly challenge internationally accepted borders. This cartographic aggression isn't accidental, it's intentional. What drives this strategy? Experts point to a combination of nationalism, strategic positioning, and the CCP's legitimacy. By portraying itself as the restorer of lost lands, the Chinese Communist Party gains internal support. Externally, it pushes neighbors on the defensive. But the cost is rising. Relations with India are strained. Taiwan is rapidly militarizing. The Quad Alliance, India, US, Japan, Australia is strengthening. The world is beginning to push back. Will the idea of Greater China become a reality or remain a geopolitical illusion? Three possible futures stand before us: escalation, conflict over Taiwan, or a broader Indo-Pacific clash. Stalemate, diplomatic gridlock, and military deterrence hold lines firm. De-escalation, dialogue wins, and ambition gives way to cooperation. But one thing is certain, in China's worldview, the past isn't dead, it's a mission unfulfilled, and every map it draws is a declaration of what it believes it must reclaim. What do you think? Is China reclaiming its past or rewriting the future? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep geopolitical dives. What does the world's most powerful nation want next? In 1867, it bought Alaska. In 2019, it flirted with Greenland. And quietly, the United States looks north toward the melting Arctic. As the ice recedes, opportunity emerges, resources, roots, rivalries. This is not just about climate change, this is about power. The Arctic isn't just frozen wasteland. It holds 13% of the world's undiscovered oil, 30% of its untapped natural gas, and opens up the fabled northern sea route, a shipping lane that could rival the Suez Canal. The Arctic is rich, strategic, and melting faster than expected. In 1867, the U.S. bought Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, mocked as Seward's folly until gold and oil proved otherwise. During the Cold War, Alaska became a military front line. Fast forward to 2019, President Donald Trump publicly floated the idea of buying Greenland, an autonomous part of Denmark. Today, the Arctic is heating up in temperature and tension. The U.S. has reactivated Cold War-era bases in Alaska. NATO is conducting large-scale Arctic drills. Washington has reopened its consulate in Greenland and increased Arctic funding, but the U.S. is not alone. Russia and China are watching and acting. The Arctic Council, long a cooperative body, is now tense. U.S. diplomats push back against Russian claims and Chinese near-Arctic ambitions. Washington lobbies NATO allies to strengthen presence in the high north. America's quiet Arctic awakening is now official policy. As climate change accelerates, the ice will keep melting, and so will geopolitical patience. In the decades ahead, the Arctic may be the next Middle East. The U.S. wants to ensure it's not left in the cold. Military presence will grow, alliances will be tested, and the world will watch a new great game play out on ice. If you found this insight eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More deep dives into geopolitical strategy and rising global shifts right here. February 24, 2022, a date that shook the world. Russia invades Ukraine, and suddenly, the ghosts of the Cold War and the Tsarist Empire seem to awaken. Why did Russia, a modern state, launch such an audacious attack? Is it just about NATO, or is there a deeper ambition rooted in imperial memory, Slavic identity, and historical pride? Today, we dive deep into the Tsarist legacy and its influence on Putin's Russia, and why Ukraine is at the very heart of it. Before we decode the deeper layers, let's understand the basics. Russia and Ukraine are two sovereign countries, both once part of the Soviet Union. Ukraine gained independence in 1991, after the USSR collapsed. Since then, Ukraine has leaned toward the West, aiming to join NATO and the European Union. Russia, on the other hand, sees Ukraine not just as a neighbor, but as the cradle of its own civilization. Kievan Rus, the medieval state from which modern Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus all trace their roots. In the 9th century, Kyiv was the cultural and political center of the Slavic world. Fast forward to the Tsarist Empire, Russia expanded its territories aggressively, swallowing Ukraine. Later, under the Soviet Union, Ukraine became one of the most vital republics, rich in agriculture, industry, and manpower. But independence in 1991 changed everything. For many Russian nationalists, especially Vladimir Putin, this was the greatest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, citing protection of ethnic Russians. In 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion claiming to denazify Ukraine. Russia aimed to protect Russian speakers, but the real reasons: NATO's eastward expansion, Ukraine's growing Western alignment, and a desire to restore Russian regional dominance. The war has led to tens of thousands of deaths, millions displaced, and a global economic shock from fuel prices to food insecurity. The world reacted fast, massive sanctions on Russia, military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine, Sweden and Finland breaking neutrality to join NATO. Yet, despite global condemnation, Russia shows no signs of retreating fully, and the battlefield grinds on, especially in eastern Ukraine. So, what's next? There are three major scenarios: stalemate, prolonged war with shifting front lines and heavy costs; diplomatic settlement of frozen conflict like Korea or post-WE Germany; escalation dragging other nations in, risking a wider European war. One thing is clear: this isn't just a war over borders, it's a war over identity, influence, and the future of the post-Soviet world. Ukraine's resistance is reshaping Europe, Russia's ambitions are testing the global order, and in between lies a battle for the Slavic heartland, where history, empire, and modern geopolitics collide. Like, share, and subscribe if you want more in-depth breakdowns on global power plays. This is not just history. This is today's battle for tomorrow's world. banks of the Nile to the banks of the Euphrates, it's a phrase that echoes through ancient texts and modern political debates. While not a formal government policy, the idea of Greater Israel continues to ignite controversy in one of the world's most volatile regions. The term Greater Israel refers to a biblical concept. Some interpretations of Genesis 15:18 describe a divine promised land stretching from the Nile in Egypt to the Euphrates in Iraq. While theological in origin, the idea has seeped into politics, nationalism, and ideology. The notion of a larger Israel began gaining modern attention during the early Zionist movement. However, it wasn't officially part of state-building plans. Still, maps of Greater Israel have appeared in fringe literature and political manifestos, especially after Israel's victories in wars like 1967's Six-Day War. The capture of Gaza, the West Bank, and the Golan Heights brought territorial questions to the forefront. Some religious nationalist groups saw this as a step toward biblical fulfillment. Today, no Israeli government openly pursues the Greater Israel vision, yet actions like continued settlement expansion in the West Bank, annexation discussions, and the refusal to recognize a Palestinian state by some parties signal deeper ideological tensions. On the Palestinian side, these developments are seen not just as occupation but as creeping annexation. Every new settlement deepens distrust and widens the conflict. The persistence of this concept, even in symbolic or fringe forms, fuels paranoia among Israel's neighbors, particularly in Lebanon, Syria, and Iran. It's cited as justification for militancy by groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, framing Israel as a colonial expansionist force. This mistrust perpetuates a cycle. Ideological fear leads to militarization, which leads to further conflict, making peace ever more elusive. Will Greater Israel remain a symbolic myth, or could it influence future actions? Much depends on Israeli leadership, regional politics, and international pressure. With hardliners gaining influence in some Israeli coalitions, and Arab regimes normalizing relations under pragmatic terms, the region stands at a crossroads. The idea of biblical borders may remain in books, but the fire it stirs is very much real. Greater Israel, ancient promise or modern powder keg? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into geopolitics, history, and power. Key today is not just asserting regional power, it's invoking an imperial legacy. From speeches in Ankara to military presence in Syria, Libya, and the Caucasus, President Erdoğan appears to be channeling the Ottoman past. Is this nostalgia or strategy? And is Turkey eyeing leadership over the Islamic world once again? After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire post-World War I, Turkey emerged under Mustafa Kemal Atatürk as a secular republic, cutting ties with its imperial past and abolishing the Caliphate in 1924. The new Turkey distanced itself from pan-Islamism and embraced nationalism, Western legal systems, and strict secularism. For nearly a century, that identity held firm until the rise of Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. The Ottoman Empire, for over 600 years, ruled much of the Islamic world. It wasn't just a political empire, it claimed spiritual leadership as the Caliphate. After 1517, from the Balkans to Arabia, the Ottomans projected power with religion as a unifier. That Caliphate was abolished with the Republic's birth, but it still lives in memory, in rhetoric, and now, in political discourse. Turkey's current foreign policy speaks volumes. In Syria, it controls buffer zones. In Libya, it backs the Tripoli-based government. In Azerbaijan, its support helped shift the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But this isn't just military outreach, it's accompanied by religious and cultural narratives, positioning Turkey as a protector of Sunni Muslim interests. Erdoğan's messaging often refers to Turkey's historical responsibility and subtly hints at Islamic leadership. But not everyone is aligned. Arab states like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the way view Erdoğan's ambitions with deep suspicion, fearing a revival of Ottoman-era dominance. At home, opposition parties warn against neo-Ottomanism and urge focus on Turkey's economic challenges. Will Turkey declare a new caliphate? Probably not, but Erdoğan's strategy seems to use Ottoman nostalgia to rally support, domestically and across the Muslim world, aligning military, religious, and diplomatic tools into one cohesive vision. Turkey's aim may not be imperial conquest but ideological influence. In a fragmented Muslim world, Erdoğan's Turkey is shaping a new kind of soft power empire. From the echoes of the Ottoman call to the corridors of today's geopolitics, Turkey's vision is bold, controversial, and strategic. Will it succeed in leading the Islamic world again or face the limits of memory and resistance? Map from Tehran to Beirut, overlays of flags, militia footage. Iran's influence doesn't advance with tanks, it advances through ideology, alliances, and militias. Welcome to the Shia Crescent, a power corridor stretching from Iran to the Mediterranean. What is it? Why does it matter? And how is it reshaping the future of West Asia? Let's break it down. What is the Shia Crescent? Footage, maps showing majority Shia regions, visual of religious shrines in Qom, Najaf. The term Shia Crescent was coined to describe a belt of Shia-dominated or Shia-influenced territories stretching from Iran through Iraq and Syria to Lebanon. Iran, a Shia-majority theocracy, seeks strategic depth and ideological influence in the region. How did it begin? The 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran sparked a shift. Political Islam now had a Shia face with revolutionary goals. During the Iran-Iraq War 1980 to 1988, Iran tried to export its ideology but met stiff resistance from Saddam Hussein's Sunni-dominated Iraq. Post-2003, the U.S. invasion of Iraq toppled Saddam, creating a power vacuum. Shia-majority Iraq shifted toward Iran's orbit. 3. Current situation: Iran's regional arc of influence in Iraq. Iran wields influence through Shia political parties and militias like PEMF, Popular Mobilization Forces. In Syria, Iran-backed President Bashar al-Assad during the civil war, deploying Irg advisors, Hezbollah fighters, and building military infrastructure. In Lebanon, Hezbollah, Iran's most powerful proxy, controls vast territory and has more firepower than Lebanon's national army. This forms a land corridor from Tehran to Beirut, with access to the Mediterranean Sea. 4. Aftermath: regional reactions and consequences. Israel sees this arc as an existential threat, regularly striking Iranian targets in Syria. Saudi Arabia, a Sunni powerhouse, sees Iran's rise as regional domination cloaked in sectarianism, sparking a long-standing proxy Cold War. The U.S. presence in Iraq and Syria remains partly to counterbalance Iran's grip. Internally, these countries suffer sectarian tensions, political instability, and economic strain. Where is the Shia Crescent headed? Footage, diplomatic summits, drone footage, youth protests in Iraq and Iran. Iran's model is shifting from revolutionary export to entrenched strategic influence. The U.S.-Iran standoff, Israel-Hezbollah tensions, and Saudi-Iran thought post-2003 Beijing talks may reshape alignments. However, growing unrest in Iraq and Iran, economic crises, and youth backlash threaten to erode Iran's soft power. Will the Shia Crescent consolidate, crack, or morph into a new phase of regional power dynamics? At the bottom of the earth, where few dare to venture, lies a frozen frontier, vast, inhospitable, and untapped. But beneath the icy silence, a quiet geopolitical competition brews. Two South American neighbors, Chile and Argentina, have long-standing claims to a slice of Antarctica. The Antarctic Treaty and territorial claims. Before we explore the rivalry, let's understand the rules of the game. Antarctica is governed by the Antarctic Treaty System, signed in 1959. It freezes all territorial claims and prohibits military activity, mining, and permanent settlements. National pride and polar politics. In the 1940s and 52nd, as the world emerged from war, Chile and Argentina saw Antarctica as a chance to project power. Argentina established bases and even sent pregnant women to give birth on Antarctic soil, a symbolic move to assert sovereignty. Scientific bases or strategic outposts. Today, both countries operate multiple research stations on the continent, but are these purely for science or symbols of future ambition? Argentina operates 13 Antarctic bases, more than any other claimant nation. Melting ice, rising interest. As global warming accelerates ice melt, hidden riches may emerge, untapped mineral deposits, possible oil and gas fields, strategic freshwater reserves. Countries like China, Russia, and the US are increasing their presence. What happens after 2048? The Antarctic Treaty allows for its review in 2048. That's when the gloves might come off, nations could renegotiate terms, and resource exploitation could become legal if agreed upon. Both Chile and Argentina are preparing quietly. Antarctica may be cold, but the intentions around it are heating up. Will peace and science prevail, or will national interests reshape the last untouched continent? On screen text, subscribe for more geopolitical deep dives. Drop a comment. Is India dreaming of building an empire or simply defending its past? While some nations chase expansion, India holds the line for something else: justice, history, and national dignity. This is not about conquest, it's about reclaiming what's rightfully ours. Let's break down the key flashpoints. Siachen Glacier, the world's highest battlefield. Siachen, controlled by China but claimed by India. Pakistan occupied Kashmir, Pak under Pakistan since 1947. These aren't arbitrary areas. They are geopolitically vital, historically Indian, and constitutionally acknowledged as part of India. Archival footage of 1947 partition, 1962 Indochina War, 1948 Pak invasion. Voiceover, post-1947, India's borders were scarred by trauma and aggression. In 1947, Pakistan invaded Kashmir, leading to the division into Pak and J&K. In 1962, China annexed Siachen during the Sino-Indian War. India didn't lose these lands due to ambition, but due to betrayal, unpreparedness, and global silence. Today, India isn't waging wars to expand its boundaries, it's responding to provocations, China's salami-slicing tactics in Ladakh. Pakistan-sponsored cross-border terrorism. India's military and diplomatic efforts reflect a defensive posture backed by resolve and international law. While some powers push for expansion, think China's 9-line, India's approach is cautious and calculated. India's doctrine is built on strategic patience, constitutional boundaries, respect for international norms. India's future stance will likely stay rooted in strategic autonomy, defense modernization, and peaceful restoration. Be it talks or tough stands, India seeks restoration, not expansion. India is not a dreamer chasing fantasy borders, it's a defender of truth, history, and justice. Because for India, defending the soul of the nation is not about power, it's about purpose. Subscribe for more deep dives into India's role in shaping the future world order.